Hello, and welcome to the Daily Space for today, Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. I am your host, Annie Wilson. Most Mondays through Fridays, we'll be here putting science in your brain. Usually Wednesdays are for Rocket Roundup, so let's get to it, shall we? So first up, China launched a Long March 3 Bravo on Thursday, November 12th at 15:54 UTC, carrying the Tiantong 2 mission from Xicheng Satellite Launch Center in southwestern China. Once in orbit and connected to Tiantong 1, the two satellites will provide stable satellite phone coverage in all weather conditions for China and surrounding areas. The independently designed and built sat phone system will be operated by China Telecom. A third satellite is expected to join the constellation in the coming years. There you go. There's that good rocket footage. All right, next up on Friday, November 13th at 22:32 UTC, a much-delayed United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket took off from Slick 41 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, carrying a classified National Reconnaissance Office payload known as USA 310. The launch itself was called NROL 101. Originally scheduled for November 4th, it ended up being pushed back 3 times, including once for Hurricane Eta, to its actual launch day of the 13th. This launch also marked the debut of the new GEM 63 solid rocket boosters made by Northrop Grumman, a change from the Aerojet Rocketdyne boosters. The circular mission patch features a golden earth in the center with the starry background divided into quarters. Each quarter features a star. I have no idea what the stars represent, but they usually represent satellites. A golden ring borders the patch, bearing the mission name as well as Elvish script that translates to "Goodness Persists." The NRO had tweeted a picture of the mission patch explaining that it pays tribute to the Lord of the Rings stories. Not much else is known about this payload or mission because it's super secret. We do, however, have launch video.
25. Status check. Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go NROL 101.
With that call, the NRO 101 mission is ready to launch. T-minus 10.
10.
9.
9.
8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. Atlas ignition. 2. 1. 0. And liftoff. Liftoff to the Atlas NROL 101 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. You are hearing the voice of Rob Kesselman providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Roll maneuver. 3180 hits on the closed loop engine control. Atlas has now completed its pre-programmed switchover maneuver. Now at 28 seconds into flight, Atlas is 2 miles in altitude, going at 1,200 miles per hour.
All right, next up on November 16th at 27 minutes after midnight UTC, a SpaceX Crew Dragon named Resilience took off from LC-39 Alpha at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Before we get into the details, check out this mission patch. A fierce-looking blue dragon is featured prominently, with a depiction of the Crew Dragon and the number 1 among a scattering of stars superimposed on the dragon. The spacecraft is flying from the bottom left toward the top right, representing ascent and insertion into orbital flight. A keen eye will notice that the border is not a circle, but the letter C. That, together with the number 1, signifies the name of the launch, Crew-1. In the star field, there appear to be 4 larger stars, possibly one for each passenger. In the border are the outlines of the ISS and the shuttle, as well as the symbols for Apollo, Gemini, and Mercury. Conspicuously absent from this patch are the astronauts' names. According to NASA, there are no individual names or flags on the border because the patch honors not just the crew members on board, but all of the NASA and SpaceX employees who work together. This patch honors their vision, service, and support. Carrying 4 astronauts to orbit, Crew-1 had a near flawless launch. The only glitch involved having to reopen the hatch after routine tests caught a slight pressure drop during the countdown. The crew found a tiny piece of debris on one of the seals that was causing a slight leak. They cleaned it up, resealed the hatch, and had a successful test. The ground crew did all of this in just a few minutes, allowing the launch to take place on schedule. The crew consisted of Michael Hopkins from NASA, spaceflight commander, this is his second spaceflight, Victor Glover from NASA, pilot, this was his first spaceflight, Shannon Walker from NASA, mission specialist 2, this was her second spaceflight, and Soichi Noguchi from JAXA, mission specialist 1, this was his third spaceflight, and he's the first foreign astronaut to fly in a Crew Dragon. There are now 7 humans on the ISS, but there's only 6 sleeping quarters. Until additional equipment is sent up on a cargo flight, Commander Michael Hopkins is going to sleep in the Crew Dragon. And of course, everyone wants to know what the zero gravity indicator was on this flight. During Dragon test launches, plushies were used, including the Little Earth Celestial Buddy and a Thai dinosaur named Trevor. For Crew-1, this tradition was followed, and in a nod to the popularity and frankly adorableness of Baby Yoda, a plush of the child from The Mandalorian floated on a tether for much of the trip. So far, there have been no signs of the Razor Crest in pursuit. The trip to the International Space Station took about 27 hours, and docking took place on November 17th. The docking was essentially uneventful, with just one tiny hiccup where shadows obscured the view of the space station. A short hold was implemented with the capsule about 20 meters away from the docking adapter, while the onboard crew waited for what amounts to sunset. Once the shadows ceased to be a problem, Resilience made contact with the station. Soft capture occurred at 4:01 UTC, and the docking itself was complete at approximately 4:15 UTC. The Dragon and its crew are scheduled to spend about 180 days at the ISS, returning to Earth sometime in May 2021.
Termination.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX, this is Resilience. Roger, go.
Go for launch, and at 37 seconds, the International Space Station flying over Kennedy Space Center.
All for one, Crew-1 for all.
Crew Dragon poised to go catch it.
It really does look like a dragon, just like
20 seconds till
with
liftoff.
all of that condensation coming off.
T-minus 15 seconds. Falcon 9 is configured for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
And Resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all.
M1E propulsion is nominal.
That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
All right, and of course, there's more videos. So this is of the capture.
Well, you can see directly in the center of the docking adapter, that is the A-pass hatch. Once we do a hard capture and do leak checks. That will be the first hatch that will open, followed by the Dragon hatch.
If you look closely in the center at the very bottom. Standing by for contact.
You can see the child floating.
Dragon SpaceX, soft capture confirmed.
All right, finally, everybody coming out.
And there they are, first across the hatch, Mike Hopkins. And here's Victor Glover. You heard the crew here, the team here in Mission Control cheering to see them come across the hatch. There's Shannon Walker.
I love the reactions. Like, yeah, you're here. You made it. And here's Soichi with the child.
New members bringing the total Expedition 64 crew
With the child.
7. Ready to increase the space station science and get to work.
All right. And our last launch for the week was an Arianespace Vega rocket on Tuesday, November 17th at 1:52 UTC. This was the second launch after the failure of Vega Flight VV17 in July 2019. That launch failed due to a now corrected structural problem with the second stage. This week's failure of the Vega Flight VV17 happened when the AVM, the very last stage of the rocket that's used to put the satellites in orbit, tumbled out of control. Early analysis by Arianespace suggests that cables were installed incorrectly, meaning that signals were sent to the wrong thrust vector control actuators. Both payloads, a Spanish Earth observation satellite and a French atmospheric science satellite, were lost. But we have launch video.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage P80 et décollage Vega 17, Céosatine Regno et Taranis. Propulsion est nominale.
It's hard to be excited about this when you know it fails. It's a beautiful launch.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux. Acquisition de la télémesure pour la station de Saint-Jean.
All right, to wrap things up, here's a running tally of a few spaceflight statistics for the current year. There are currently 5 toilets in space. 2 are installed on the ISS, 1 is on the Crew Dragon, 1 is on the Soyuz, and 1 is not yet installed. 3 toilets have burned up in the atmosphere this year. Humanity has put a whopping 1,081 satellites into orbit. That number includes those launched from other in-orbit craft like the International Space Station. Directly from rocket launches, there have been 1,050 satellites launched, and the total number of Starlinks launched this year was 773. There have been 94 total orbital launch attempts this year, including 10 failures. I keep track of orbital launches by where they launched from, also known as spaceport. Here's that breakdown. China 34, USA 31, Kazakhstan 7, Russia 5, French Guiana 5, New Zealand 5, Japan 3, Iran 2, India 1, Israel 1. And your random space fact for the week is that there is a stained glass window in the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., which contains a piece of the moon collected during the Apollo 11 mission. The lunar rock was donated by the Apollo 11 astronauts on the 5th anniversary of the first moon landing. And now I'm going to answer questions from our live audience here on twitch.tv/CosmoQuestX. While I do that, I'm going to remind you that this is a production of PSI, that's Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to exploring our solar system and beyond. Today's script was written and edited by Gordon Dewis, Beth Johnson, Ellie Pelfrey, and myself. I have been your host, Annie Wilson. Our web content will be produced by Beth Johnson. Our executive producer and fearless leader is Dr. Pamela Gay. And we are here thanks to the generous contributions of people just like you. The best way to support us is through Patreon at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX.